Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2022 Shriners Hospital Children's Open Preview. First off and foremost, thank you very much for checking me out. If you stick around, pat yourself on the back because you are going to have a better opportunity to cash in on those DFS lineups and make some smart bets on this upcoming tournament. So first off, we are going to go through everything from the course breakdown. We're going to look at all the skills that we need for guys to win here at TPC Summerlin. And with that said, let's get into this. Give me about 30 minutes, so we should be able to get through this pretty quickly. All right, so real quick, as you know, I have been a big proponent and sponsor and fan of PrizePicks.com. And what is PrizePicks.com? If you do not know yet, it is an projections site that you sit there and you pick the over or under on really any sport that you have any hankering. And you just need to pick at least two different guys and pick if you like their over under projections. And as we speak, they are having a little promo where if you use my promo code Golf Guru, they will match you up to 100%, up to $100 on your first deposit. And with that said, I've been giving out picks typically for football and then of course golf on Thursday. And to sum up my picks for the Thursday, so it was the opening round at the Chicken Open, the Sanderson Farms, and didn't do so well right now. So now I'm at 50%. I'm two out of four I've hit, and literally could have picked probably any guys except, funny enough. Well, the funny thing is that PrizePicks also does not give you the whole 156 field. They pick like 20 golfers. So long story short, Sam Burns, he came through. I was a little nervous on Sebastian Munoz, but I thought, hey, past winner there. He is usually awesome on opening rounds. Hence, you guys know I bet him usually the first round leader. And he just came out lackluster still. So, of course, he had a bad showing at the Fortinet. I kind of mentioned, I think he shot over 8 over each day. It is a lot of his putter yips. He's got a 3-foot putter yip going on. He literally missed 2 birdie putts from 3 feet. One was 2.5 feet. I mean, they were nothing. So if he gets that under wraps, if he would have done that day, would have been fine. Gary Woodland, now here you go. I actually bet him to go over, and he went out and shot like 5 under. And then the next day he shot like 1 or 2 over. So there you go. I mean, that's Gary Woodland. And then Sergio, I should have kind of taken my own advice. Of course, I did not pick Sergio. Kind of knew he would have a rider hangover, and he came out very lackluster, missed the cut. I think he shot 1 under each day, where guys were shooting 9, 10 under. It was ridiculous. So long story short, no good there. But we do have Monday Night Football tonight, and that's a big game. Got the Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers in LA. The weather looks perfect. So with that said, I think it's going to be a scoring fest. I think Vegas has got the over-under set at 51. I think you could bet the over on that, but neither here nor there. We're not going to have a Sunday night game where it's raining and just a couple of defense grudge matches. I mean, both these guys' defense are okay. I don't think they're exceptional, but there's just too many weapons on both sides. So with that said, I've got my picks are Darren Waller. I've got the over on 6 receptions, so he needs 7. Henry Ruggs needs over 3 receptions, so of course 4. And Henry Ruggs, I think on average, will be getting about 6 to 7 catches. So I feel pretty good with that. Austin Eckler, again, I like him for, the Raiders defense on the run is pretty good, but I think they're not that great on wide receiver matchups, and I kind of look at Austin Eckler fitting in that area. So I like him on the over. And then last but not least, Bryan Edwards. He smashed last time I picked, and he just needs 3 receptions. And I feel like, it was stated Carr more and more has been getting Bryan Edwards involved in the offense. So I really like that one. I mean, if I had to kind of give my 2 favorite, it would probably be Bryan Edwards and probably Darren Waller. I mean, I just feel like that is their main go-to guy. So for him not to get 7 receptions under perfect weather conditions, I'd be shocked. And it's going to be I think it's going to be a back and forth high scoring game. We'll see how that all works out. Okay, enough about PrizePicks. Go check it out. Put in Golf Guru and make your own picks, but those are the ones I'm going with. All right, so real quick, we're going to recap the Sanderson Farms, and this is going to be pretty fast. Of course, if you watched my shows on the Sanderson Farm last week, I told you very clearly that Sam Burns is a perfect fit. I mean, he's one of the best ball strikers in there. And then you get the next set, which of course was he's one of the best Bermuda putters. Now, the problem is that when everything points to someone that they should win out of a certain field, and they are the most expensive, it's kind of hard, for me, just to pick. Hey, here's the easiest guy to pick. The last tournament that I can think about over the past 50 tournaments that we had in the super season was John Rahm at the Farmers. He's the last guy that was, from an odds perspective, the lowest, was the number one cost on DFS, and actually came through. All the other tournaments, the guys have faltered. What I mean by that is they didn't win it. And if they don't win it at that price tag or those odds, then they missed. Some of them didn't make the cut. There were some times where DJ was ranked number one, and I literally remember he missed the cut a couple times. So long story short, Sam Burns wins, and I jumped on the Sam Burns train Friday night. So once I saw what his ball striking numbers were, and that he was actually literally losing strokes to the field putting, I knew that could not sustain. And against that field, and then also you had a bunch of Korn Ferry rookies that have never been in that situation, like Sahith Theegala, you had Cameron Young, you had Buckley, you had a bunch of these guys that were wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and of course, no problem go shoot 5 to 8 under. But when it came down to crunch time on Sunday and have to actually close it out, I knew there would be one guy that'd be standing there holding the chicken, and that was Sam Burns. So I actually hit him 8-1. So it was a nice little payday. I knew, like I said, that I actually had Henrik Norlander. That would have been a huge hit if he could have pulled it off. I was really pulling for Henrik, but it didn't happen. And from a pick standpoint, I think I like 80% of my guys made the cut and showed up. I'm not going to go through all those, but you can go back, watch the show, and you can compare and contrast. But like I said, I did not pick Sam Burns because my picks were going to be Corey Connors and Will Z were kind of my two main guys, and that's what I was going with. And they still did well, just Will Z couldn't pull it off at the end, and Corey Connors, same thing. Now, let's talk about this guy to the right, because here is a perfect example of golf, Nick Watney. I've got some things here that I'll pull up for you. So if you look at Nick Watney over his last 5 tournaments, you'd actually look and go, I could see how he could make a charge or at least be relevant. He's had some top 30 finishes. He had one miscut at the Wyndham, a 50th. But if you know Nick Watney and you know what he's been going through, and you look at since the Rocket Mortgage, which was just July 4th, all the way back to the previous Sanderson Farms, he missed 18 cuts in a row. Let me state that again. He missed 18 cuts in a row. The guy has always been bare min in any tournament that he's been in. Shown no life whatsoever. But I just am stating this from when you're looking at betting on golf, that this is why you will see me typically touting the higher odds, because it's the one sport that you can get high odds and hit because anything can happen on any given day. And if we look at, I wanted to pull this up. This is actually like the top 10 guys, their stroke gain analysis. But what I wanted to point out was exactly what I was saying from the word go, is that it's going to come down to the best ball striker. And that is shown time again. It was hilarious. I was listening to the guys on the Golf Channel. I think it was on Saturday, and I don't know the guy's name, not the main announcer, but the color commentary, the guy to the left, was saying it all comes down to who's the best putter at Sanderson Farms. Now, you could say that about every tournament, but that is crap analysis. And then he mentioned Sergio Garcia and said that was a one-off. But I'm like, well, wait a minute. What about when Munoz won? He was ranked, I think, 80th that year in putting. And then now I'm blanking on the guy before that, who was even a worse putter. But neither here or there. That is not, it's been ball strikers over and over that win at Sanderson Farms. And again, showed. And then again, if you gain almost 12 strokes against the field, the putter, and you can see Nick Watney, who, tied for second, terrible on approach, but gained 12 strokes with a putter, yeah, you're going to be relevant. You have a chance to win the tournament, just like when Patrick Cantlay gained like 15, 16 strokes, even though his ball striking wasn't terrible. But if you do that, you're going to win the tournament. It's just pretty much guaranteed. So you can see, again, the ball striking, and you can see other guys, putting did come in to a line, but you can also see the ball striking, like Trey Molinex, did nothing around the green, but, gained 8 strokes putting. So all I'm saying is that, that stayed. And then the last thing, which is crazy, but again, from a DFS perspective, now this tournament allows for this. This Shriners that's coming up, this will not be the case. I can guarantee you. A lot stronger field. I think we have the top 11 out of 25 world ranked guys in this tournament. So it's a much stronger field. But if you add this salary up, you could literally have left, I think it was almost, yeah, $7,000 on the table to have the optimal salary. So that's just crazy that, it was Burns, and then Watney was at 6,600, Young 6,100, Landry, so on and so forth. And also, I just put one last thing. I put 24 lineups in the large GPP event for 100K top prize. And I believe it was, Friday, very late. I had one of the lineups actually was ranked 11th. And then Mr. Davis Riley, I believe it is. I think he's a local kid. I think that's how I stumbled onto him. All I need to do is make par on the last hole, and I would have had 6-6 going through. And that lineup still cashed pretty nice, up, like upper couple hundreds. But what I was getting to is he bogeyed the last hole, and that just kind of blew my mind. And if you had 6-6 get through, because it was very minimal, I don't know what the percent was, you got to cash in, you definitely cashed. So, okay, enough on the Chicken Open. It's good that, like I said, what I'm happy to see is that everything kind of came as what I thought it would, and it was just, I still played Burns. I told you guys to sprinkle in Burns, but if you were playing, one or two lineups, I was off them. But if you were playing anywhere over 10, to definitely, play the guy. Okay. Heading to Vegas, baby, Vegas. So this is, I mentioned, the Shriners, and the course is TPC Summerlin. Good news is it's been here forever, since 2008. So we have tons of data on this. And then even before that, it was kind of a rotation where they would play like 3 courses in Vegas, and TPC Summerlin was one of them. So technically you could say it's been hosted for over 20 years. But what 2008 is the actual year that it was just the whole 4 rounds were played at TPC Summerlin. And not that we're ever going to go back that far and look at the information, but there is some interesting tidbits I will mention. The architect's Bobby Weed back in 1991 when the course was open, and then there was some consulting from Fuzzy Zeller, which that really probably doesn't help us at all, but just so you know. So it is a par 71. It is 7,255 yards. The fairway is Bermuda, roughs 2 inches, 2.25 inches of Bermuda, and greens are that A1, A4 bent greens. Only thing I'd state, Bermuda, as you saw, what we just saw at, blanking always on these tournament names, at the Chicken Open, Sanderson Farms, that Bermuda is tricky when it comes to rough. You just don't know what you're going to get out of it. You don't know what your lie is going to be. And if it's cut short like that, the ball's going to sink down typically. It's usually typically, a little rough around the greens. When it comes to chipping, again, it's not as easy. So just side note on that. Player field, typical 156, going to be cut down to T65 in ties like we just saw. So again, you got a 33% chance, give or take, that you're going to have a 6-6 lineup. So that's the trick. Historical cut is 2 to 6 under. 6 under was just recently last year. So that also, again, if you played the Shriners last year and your guy went out and shot, 6 under, and you had to be, I believe it was, you had to be 7 under to actually make the cut. So pretty crazy. But I expect the same exact thing. There's only one little outlier. That was 2018. There was crazy winds, and Patrick Cantlay actually won at 9 under, and the cut was at 2 over. But that's just an outlier. Just take 2018 and just chuck it out the window. Which is kind of shocking is that Patrick Cantlay, this is almost like the John Deere, or the Wyndham for Webb Simpson, the John Deere for Jordan Spieth, that this guy is either won or came in second. But he is not in the field. That's what's crazy. I get that he just came off the rider and all that, but and he doesn't need the money. And he doesn't, I guess if you wanted to get some easy FedEx points, but I was just, when I typed in and could not find him, I was blown away, because when I think of the Shriners last few years, it's been Patrick Cantlay either in a playoff or winning or, whatever. On that note, of course, last year, Party Marty Laird came out of nowhere, and it wasn't out of nowhere, and I'll talk about that. But it was great odds. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'm guessing it was at least 200 to 1, maybe 300 to 1 if you bet him outright in the beginning. But he shot 2,300 net, went to a 3-man playoff, right? You had Austin Cook and Matthew Wolff in that playoff, but Marty Laird came out a winner. And then one thing about this tournament, it typically goes to a playoff. So 2020, Same thing. You had Kevin Na and Cantlay at 23 under go to a playoff. Kevin Na won. And then the year before that, Bryson shot 21 under. And I think it was Cantlay that shot 20 under right behind him, if I remember correctly. You got large, very large greens with mucho undulation. It means a lot of slope, a lot of hills, hogback. So, putting could throw, it could make it tougher for guys that are just not good putters. You got a lot of sand, a lot of this waste area. I've got some pictures of it we'll talk about, but really, this course is pretty vulnerable, and we'll talk about that a little more. 4 water hazards, which brings water into 4 holes, but really water is not really a big concern here at all. And fast greens. It really shouldn't say lightning fast. That needs to be changed. But the overall past conditions, I don't have a Stimpmeter reading, but if I had to give you a guess, somewhere probably between 12 and 13. But they are fast greens. I mentioned course defense. You got large, generous fairways. So bombers here are very, prevalent. You got large, very large greens. So, that's where I kind of approach numbers, but of course it's proximity to the pin is what you got to look at. And like I said, the defense this place will have is if wind gets blowing, and then if you get off the beaten path, there is this desert wasteland and bushes and rocks and, kind of crevasses around. So, even though there is large, fairways and large greens, but if you get off the beaten path, you're going to take a big number. What else we got here? And I already mentioned, that the greens are just crazy slopey fast and could cause a problem if you're a terrible putter. Some past notes that I had from last year was, it is truly a scoring putting festivus. I mean, it's, the first thing you need is a good approach, good irons. But the next thing is it's the guys that just go off with the putter that win here. And that's very difficult to pick. And that's why you're going to see quite a kind of all over a little bit on who's won here. This is, for me, not as easy to figure out or predict like the Sanderson Farms was, where it's for the last 4 years now, every time that course, same with like if you go to Harbortown, where they play the RBC Heritage, it's like, you need plotters, you need guys that hit the ball straight, no matter what distance. This course really, I wouldn't say there's a perfect fit. And I'll show you that in a bit. And I think that's enough. That's your course breakdown. Let's move on. So I didn't give you a course layout because what I could find wasn't, but again, I always tell you guys, if you haven't seen this course, if you ever watched the Waste Management, it's pretty much the same thing. I think that's probably your number one comp course, but let's give you an idea. So I was mentioning these like dirt crevasses. Actually, Bryson there. I forgot whose that is walking down in here. So a bit of this kind of sand, rock. So if you get off, I mean, you never know. You could be behind a rock. You could be behind, that's the issue. But if you're in play in the fairways or even on the slight rough, and like I said, you're going to tear this course up. This is from last year. I took a screenshot of when I was watching PGA Live just to show this is one of the holes that have water guarding it. Again, quite hilly for being in Vegas. But yeah, nothing crazy. So again, and as I always mentioned, go on YouTube, type in 2021 Shriners Open round 1 highlights, and away you go. So the scorecard real quick, we'll walk through this. Very typical, right? There's going to be about 6 really gettable scoring opportunities, 6 bogeys, that's the same, but you got a gentle handshake right off the bat. They got 3 very gettable par 5s. Now I say that one 600 yards, but it still shows that it will yield birdies. And then, like I said, you've got some eagle chances here. You got guys. So you got to remember, this is also high elevation and that dry heat. So the ball is going to travel. Again, like the Waste Management, over at TPC Scottsdale, the ball is just going to fly further. You're talking 90-degree temperatures, thinner air. You're at a higher elevation. So even guys that aren't known to be very long, when I say that it's, I average 280, 290, they're going to be hitting at 310. So now you got the guys that hit at 330. And they're going to be hitting at 353, and also I would picture very minimal rain. And so everything's going to be fast and running. So with that said, it's like I said, in the back is where, you could really, looks like you can turn it on. I guess the front would have a little more challenge. But again, when I think of this course, and I just think Scorefest. So, all right, official scorecard. I checked this through, and I only put this up for, just from a reference for me and just to let you guys know. I went through every hole, and again, amazing enough, like the Sanderson Farms, it is exact yardage that I have here. So we're all good there. Okay, so now to take a look at the stroke gain analysis ranking. So this is what I do for what do you need to win here if you could build the perfect golfer. And so this kind of breaks down from a stroke gain analysis approach. The first thing and foremost, as we already discussed, it's all about the irons, all about the approach. That shows up every time at this course. Next, you do need to gain off the tee and need some distance. That definitely helps with the eagles and the birdies to take advantage. As I already mentioned, it is a bit of a putting contest. So we are going to look at putting, but it's very hard to predict. But we will look at the guys that do well putting on Ben and look at some of the comparable courses where they've done well. I think scrambling's going to come into effect just because when I've watched this tournament, guys are going to get in some goofy areas at time, as I mentioned. And so it's going to be key to get up and down and save your par, or even have your opportunities on a par 5. Of course, we're going to look at birdies, eagles, birdie or better opportunities. So those three key things. See where the guys that have can go low. The proximity of the pins, funny enough, is very similar to the previous Sanderson Farms. Proximity of the pin shows up 100 to 125, 14% of the shots coming in are coming in from that yardage, 100 to 125. The next one's 125 to 150, 20% of the shots are coming in from that side. There's only 3 par 5s on here. 2 are in the 550 range, one's at 600, but they're very gettable all around. And then last but not least, you got 6 par 4s that are between 4 and 450. So we're going to plug that into the model. And then also par 3s between 200 to 225. You get a couple of those. Okay, with that said, let's go take a look at the past winners. And for me, this is probably, I think, one of the more valuable pieces of information when you kind of break it down, and also you can reference back. So we talked about Marty Laird, and we're even from my perspective at the time, kind of felt like that came out of nowhere for him. But if you think about horses for courses, Marty Laird actually has won on this track, same tournament back in 2009. Now, the problem is, even with me, I'm never going to really look at that kind of information or go that far back, but he has shown up at this course before, and there is certain courses that fit guys' eyes. So if you take away the trees and they just have certain lines and they just feel really comfortable on the green, it just kind of makes sense. So let's just kind of break down and take a look at, some of these guys and what they did. And as I mentioned, what shows up mostly, the one thing that you can definitely kind of lean your hat on is the approach. Especially last year, all the guys gained almost 6 strokes on the field on approach. Off the tee was, good, but, nothing crazy. And the putter, from the top 3 was good, but nothing crazy. You can see Abraham Answer, he did not get it done on approach. He got it done with the putter, and that's going to happen. Now, you can same with Kevin Na. Not too bad on approach. He was gaining a stroke 0.3, 1.3, but just went in Fuego with a putter. And again, like Patrick Cantlay at the BMW, this recent this year, if that happens, you're pretty much going to win the tournament. You see, he really didn't gain anything against a field tee to green. It was just all with a putter. But again, you could see the other guys, it's been approach, and then if you go back 2019, I believe that is, with DeChambeau one. And this is before, you can see the picture, before Big Bad Bryson. He wasn't gaining as much. Now, he still has gained 4 strokes against the field on a tee, but he gained 7 on approach. Second, Cantlay gained almost 5. Ryder gained almost a little over 3. And again, Answer, funny enough, both times did not do a whole lot on approach, just likes putting there. So, gained almost 7 strokes there. And you can see Bryson really didn't do it, the putter, but was so close on his proximity of the pin that, if you're hitting it within 5 feet every time and making the putt, it's not the way that the math adds that you're not getting credit. It's the guys that are making the 30, 40 footers and sinking those, so if you sink like 150 feet of putts versus someone that sinks 30 feet of putts, it's going to give you a higher stroke gain average on putting. So everything that I see again is I want guys first off that are best with the irons. I want guys that can, gain some off the tee. And then I got to figure out the putting. Because like I said, anyone like a Nick Watney can go off of the putter, and predicting that's very difficult. But you can, like I said, get some idea. Pat Perez really good iron player. Brian Stewart, who I've talked about multiple times on this show, pretty solid. Sam Ryder, who actually had a pretty good showing here just recently, which I talked about him. I mean, he was coming up on the model. I don't think he was one of my picks, but he was one of my value play guys I identified for the Sanderson Farms. So, there's some names there you can look at. So if we first then just go look at recent form, so plugging in and creating the model that I just discussed with the how to win stroke gain analysis, and then I can talk about how I weighted them. So I've got no filters on. This is looking at just the last 3 tournaments or their last 12 rounds. And the first thing and foremost, as I mentioned, I set approach and I weighted at 25%. Again, don't typically do that, but I think it's so crucial here. Off the tee, I put at 10. I did weight putting 15% just to try to pull that out on guys that have putt well. Driving distance, I put in 1 just so I could click on it and see who pokes it out there, but I also weighted at 5%. Of course, birdie or better, eagles, that's taken up 20% because, again, the scoring is crucial. Then the rest are par 4, par 5, proximities that I talked about and scrambling. You plug that in, you click my rank, and the first guy that pops up, crazy enough, is EVR. Now, it's not that crazy because, of course, Reddy won the Barracuda and then had a really good run in the FedEx Cup playoffs. And that's what this data is pretty much pulling is, either some of these guys is going to be pulling FedEx Cup playoff stuff, or it's going to pull the Fortinet and Sanderson Farms and maybe the Northern Trust. So, but it's a pretty good list of guys, and I like the names, and it makes sense. Funny enough, Nick Watney does pop up there, and I kind of showed you that his last, 5 out of 6 tournaments haven't been bad. But of course, with the recent information, it's going to knock him up there. Even like his putter is rated 26 now. So Paul Casey, great iron player, and just coming off the Ryder. You got Corey. I remember I mentioned Sam Ryder. Webb Simpson, no thank you. Who knows? But his irons have just not been where I'd like to see him. Abe Answer shows up again. Mito Pierre has been, doing well. Will Z. I actually like Hammer and Hank. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But yeah, so that gives you, from a recent form perspective, some of the top guys that are in this field. Mark Hubbard could be a sneaky play, good putter. He had a good showing, I believe, at the Fortinet. But anyways, yeah. All right, so then we look at just purely the history at TPC Summerlin. So these are the guys who have played. You're going to see some guys only played here 1 time, 4 rounds. You're going to see some guys have played here quite a bit. So it's going to skew a little bit, but again, using that same ranking and just looking at the guys at this field, Lucas Glover, of course, who won the John Deere here not too long ago, pops up there. Pat Perez, I mentioned there's Marty Laird, so that makes total sense. Trying to see who else. Patton Kazire actually has done pretty well here. My Brokeback Mountain pick. We'll talk a little more about him. Adam Hadwin, who showed up, I don't know if he led. He was leading Thursday at Sanderson Farms, but kind of fell back. I don't think he was outright leader after Thursday, but I know for a little bit, I think he had an early tee time. Trey Mullinax. Hideki Matsuyama is just very interesting to me. And partly the reason why is I think WGC St. Jude, if you look at the guys who made the playoff there and did well, I think that course has some correlation here. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And this was actually from PGA Live last year. I pulled this just because I thought it was interesting. So what this is showing is the guys that have played in this tournament, and it had 4 Eagles during the week where they kind of showed up. And Joaquin Niemann done well. And what I thought was the reason why I pulled this was because at this time we had no clue that Martin Laird was going to win this thing. But again, Martin Laird showed up in 2016 with a T27, a T10. Showed Chad Campbell. So this was just pulling guys since 2008 with whoever had 4 total Eagles in 1 week and where they kind of ended up. All right, let's talk about comp courses. I always think this is a good thing too for you. I'm ranking these kind of like, again, 1 to 6. I think the Waste Management, TPC Scottsdale, pretty much from a comp course, because this is a TPC course, which means it's a, people play it, and right, it's an easy course because it's also made for the public. So pretty much what you want to do in that case is just pick other TPC courses. You're going to get high scoring events, and you're going to get a good understanding of guys that do well there. So with that said, the Waste Management, very similar. It's a par 71. almost exact same yardage, 7,261 yards. It has crazy large greens, 7,000 square foot greens, so very similar. Everything about it, from the way it plays, the way it looks, they are almost like identical. The only difference is that at the Waste Management, they are Bermuda greens instead of bent. So if you are big on that, then that would be really, honestly, the only difference. I think the John Deere is a good one too. The jump where they played John Deere Classic at TPC Deere Run. Again, a par 71, 7,268 yards. So again, almost identical. Now these are smaller greens. They're 5,500 square foot, so like average, but they are bent. So that's also a really good comparable course. If you see how guys, hence that's why I brought up Lucas Glover. And again, you can see what we're looking at here is taking my model, and when I put in the filters to get all the TPC courses, pretty much, these are the guys that pop up. And I think is a good list. Again, Adam Hadwin is popping up there. Joaquin Neiman I mentioned. Ian Poulter, an elite iron player in his time. Again, this is taken just at these courses, and also could be a crazy putter, which of course you see at the Ryder Cup at times. I already mentioned Hideki. You got Aaron Wise. There's the Glover. Kevin Chappell one time was amazing. Pat Perez pops up again. Brian Stewart. So again, some names, for Francesco Molinari, who's in the field. I can't even think the last time we saw this guy. But again, he's only played here once before, but he played on a TPC, one of these events before, not exactly the Shriners. I already mentioned a WGC FedEx St. Jude, right? So you had Sam Burns, Matsuyama, and Kevin Na. And all those guys just kind of come to my brain when I think of this course. Of course, that was Bermuda. But if you think of WGC St. Jude, that's at TPC Southwind. It's a par 70, so one less scoring opportunity if you want to look at it that way. But it's 7,233 yards, and it's Bermuda, so not bent. But again, I think it's a great comp course. I put the Byron Nelson in here because that's played at that TPC Craig Ranch, and just from a pure perspective of how low those guys went there. It's a par 72, 7,400 yards, but it was bent greens. But just to kind of cross compare, it's another tournament that typically guys can go really low. You got the 3M Open. That's at TPC Twin Cities, par 71. Kind of going to know a lot of TPC courses is par 71. 7,400 yards again, bent greens, and then they also have pretty large greens at TPC Twin Cities, 6,500 square feet on average. So another good comparable course. And the last but not least, I'm throwing in a Northern Trust for two reasons. When they played the Northern Trust just recently, let me think about this. They played Liberty National. That was a par 71, 7,400, and it was the exact same greens, A4 bent grass, and they went super low at that course. Of course, maybe a little better field, but just a side note. And then the year before that, when DJ just tore apart TPC Boston, that's a par 71, 7,300 yards, and also A4 bent greens, but they're a little smaller, 5,200 square feet. So those are the courses that I'm going to be referencing. So when I'm, through my evaluation phase that I kind of go through, those will be going against to kind of help me make the picks, and just something for you guys to use too if you're doing your own kind of analysis. All right, and then also create a model for you to find out who the guys on this field that are best on approach. And over the last 3 tournaments or 12 rounds, this is just looking at approach. Henrik Norlander, Mito, Hovland, Bramlett, Casey, Scott. You can read them. Again, some of these guys are going to have maybe the Fortinet and the Sanderson there, but you're also going to have guys that have the FedEx Cup playoffs. So, and Kevin Na, don't forget, could be sneaky. He can make a comeback. Again, he won 2 years ago, and also he's been playing pretty crazy hot. So I think he had a miscut, though, recently. I don't even remember now. I felt like he was just running super hot, and then something happened. If you want to know who are the best putters at, usually I do on bent, but I think this is a little different. So I actually wanted to look at who's been the best putters at TPC Summerlin. They nicknamed it Summy, so you'll see that. Funny enough, Brian Harmon ranks out this is over the last 3 tournaments or 12 rounds at this track. And which is bent, but I wanted to just focus on this track. Ricky Fowler, now that's where you can get a little skewed, right? I mean, Ricky Fowler has definitely not been the putter he was when he played here, but he is in the field and has had a lot of success. Denny McCarthy, who just had a putting bonanza at Sanderson Farms, almost, could have came out with a win if he could have kept going on Sunday. Patty Gazire, always a good putter, it's just everything else. Siwoo Kim, very interesting. Might be someone I look at again. He keeps showing up. Abraham Answer again has done very well here. So if you go with he's a good player all around, right? He got his first win also at one of the top comparable courses, which is WC St. Jude, TPC Southwind. Brian Gay, I think he's 500 to 1. I swear, I think I'm going to throw a few bucks on it. Just, it'd be so like Brian Gay to win this. And it's Bermuda. And he, like Burns, is one of the best Bermuda, is probably the best Bermuda putter there is. And I don't think you have to be crazy long here. Like I said, you go out and gain 15 strokes with the putter, you win, pretty much guaranteed. And this was just, again, from last year. I pulled this just because I thought it was interesting. So if you want to know the guys, and it just really reiterates kind of what I just stated, but some of these guys are not in the field. So Ricky Fowler, over his career since 2009, I'll keep that in mind, with a minimum of 10 rounds, has gained the most on these greens comparative. Cam Smith, but not in the field, would be next. Brian Gay, I just mentioned. Kevin Na, who's won here in the past, and Patty Gazire. Maybe it's finally Patty Gazire. Maybe, I haven't been on him as much. He did make the cut, I believe, right, at Sanderson Farms. I don't know where he ended up off the top of my head. But anyways, someone to look at. And then, I think driving distance can help, right? DeChambeau's one here. It's always a plus if, you're making shorter irons in, right? So if you want to know within this field over the last 12 rounds that Taylor Penderith been smoking at Matthew Wolf, no shocker. Now, again, that's not bringing in, if you look at off the tee, so that's I think that's the most pertinent. If you look at Taylor Penderith is hitting fairways and he's the longest. Now that's an advantage. Matthew Wolf, which he had a couple good days at Sanderson Farms, but as I think it was Friday, he was spraying it all over the lot. If you look at Bramble, who's the next? Let me figure this out. So I guess Trey Mullinex would be the guy with the most distance and the most accuracy. Koepka, I think the waste management, I said, is the number one comp course, and he just won the waste management. The problem with Koepka is you just never know. I've always said if Koepka comes out on Thursday and is relevant and has a good round, watch out. If Koepka comes out and has a bad Thursday, it's pretty much over. And that's just my own narrative, but it seems like it holds true. Will Z from a distance, an accuracy. Taylor Moore, who I forget what he ended up top 5. He definitely he was up there at Sanderson Farms. He's showing up with some length and accuracy. I actually played him in Showdown and helped me out quite a bit. Okay, I think that's enough. Cameron Davis, Substraka. All right, so with that said, let's talk about some of my early favorite bets so you guys can get these in, and hopefully odds don't start changing. But this is coming off DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, just to state that these are DraftKings, so you might use odds checker. I just use DraftKings because, of course, it's just easier with having your DFS and the sportsbook all one. You can move money in between very easily and all that stuff. So first guy, Trey Mullinex, why not? We're going to run it back, 150 to 1. Almost had a chance to win, of course, at Sanderson. So hopefully he stays on that hot streak. It's going to be all about the putter. Hank Laboda, I think, some people are sour on him. Well, and 200 to 1. Like if you would have went back a few tournaments ago, you were not getting no 20 to 1 or 200 to 1. He, of course, had those 3 great finishes. He was gaining with the putter, gaining across the board, and then the putter has went south. But that can come and go. I mean, he was gaining at one point, like averaging 4 or 5. He was gaining across the board. So don't think it was just a putter. But the putter did, for whatever reason, the last few tournaments, he's just not making putts. So that could easily come back here. I like him 200 to 1 for that kind of, I think it's great odds. EVR, I haven't been an EVR guy, but the guy's been playing amazing and can just go in fuego hot. So it wouldn't, we haven't seen him in a little bit, of course, since the FedEx playoffs, but he was on a tear. In the Tour Championship, if I remember correctly, I think he ended up almost last in that. But I mean, one Barracuda, killed it at Northern Trust and BMW. Like I said, if I remember correctly, the Tour Championship wasn't the best, but 50 to 1, I like that. Lucas Glover, I showed you, popped all over here, won the John Deere. Hasn't been as much like Lucas Glover. I mean, he made the cut, but wasn't going low. But he can get super hot, and he's a really good iron player. So 100-1, I run it back, and so these last two I had at Sanderson Farm. Henry Norklander, I mean, came in what, third or whatever at the Chicken Open. He was 151. He's down 131, but again, that's awesome odds for a guy that right now is firing on all cylinders. So right now, from early favorite bets, that's what I put in. I'm going to, of course, make more bets. And of course, like I said, I mean, if I had to pick someone that just keeps, kind of coming up to my brain, I mean, Kazire sounds good. I didn't even look at his odds, but, I feel like Koepka in this field, if he wants to win this, he just keeps coming to my mind that this is kind of his deal. But, hey, at the Waste Management, he had to chip in that eagle towards the end to win the thing. So who knows? Like I said, I think there's still room for long shots to win here. It's just a way stronger field than usual. And I think, guys, this is kind of like they're in Vegas, right? They've got two tournaments back to back. You got the CJ Cup, which I believe is going to be an 80-person, which it always usually is, an 80-player invite. So I think they're kind of like, well, I'm here anyways. Let's, do kind of a 2-week Vegas vacation, and away we go. That's the other thing, is figure out who's the guys. Also, you got the locals, right? Pat Perez lives in Vegas. You got Kevin Na, who lives in Vegas. Somebody just moved there. Was it Xander? Which he's not in the field. I'll figure out the local guys, because that is something. If you're staying at home, sleeping in your own bed, not traveling, could be a slight advantage there. Okay, that's it. That is my preview. First off and foremost, if you do me the honor, click that like button and share it with anybody else that you think might like it. And of course, I am 70 subscribers away from hitting the 1,000 mark, and so it would mean the world to me. As always, if you'd subscribe, I am providing 3 different shows of content for you guys. Of course, there's no commercials right now. I will always limit it if I can on that. I understand it gets annoying, but hey, click the subscribe button. And if you are watching this and you haven't signed up for YouTube, it's not a big thing. Put your name in, email address, and then you can subscribe and also turn on notifications. And once these get released, you guys will be the first to see them. And last but not least, if I can help you with any questions, one and done, betting, if you're kind of coming down to this guy or that guy, hey, hit me up on YouTube comments or on Twitter. Probably YouTube comments is the best. Follow me on Twitter more for, I keep an eye on PGA communications, and if withdrawals or anything comes up that you guys need to know about, I'll throw it out there. So, all right, guys, best of luck to us this week. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Don't forget, hit PrizePicks and either use my picks or try your own, and I'll let you know how they go tomorrow. All right, guys, take care.